podcast king, stand-up star, interviewed the president, and still doesn't feel good enough? Let's talk about Theo Von. Hey guys, it's Daniel, licensed therapist. Apparently, Theo has a pretty low view of himself, but good thing Tony Robbins, good old banana hands, himself is on the job.
Wow, man, look at those mitts! That's like grabbing a bunch of bananas.
In this clip, Theo gets really vulnerable and opens up about his self-esteem issues, which initiates an impromptu therapy session. Your guy, the pro, is going to analyze how Tony approaches Theo's self-esteem, give you my insight on how I would approach things as a therapist, and I'll give him a grade at the end. But if you like this kind of content, consider liking and subscribing. Let's get into it.
Sometimes I have a tough time feeling proud of myself. Do you know what that, and I think I've had other people call in our show that have talked about that,
What do you think it is?
I don't know. I feel like, I almost feel like there's a disconnect. Like it doesn't even land on me. Or I feel like maybe if I feel like I'm proud of myself, like if I actually feel proud of myself, it'll go against some script that I've always had written or some thing that was always written inside of me. It's like it's almost like it wouldn't, if I wrote on the wall of myself, I'm proud of you, it wouldn't even fucking show up on the wall.
What emotion would you feel if you saw that?
Like what emotion would I feel if I saw what?
I'm proud of myself. Would you go bullshit? Would you be pissed off by it? Would you be annoyed? Would you just
No, I think I'd feel ashamed of myself for even thinking it.
That's interesting. And it produced an emotion in you just now, even when you just thought about it. I saw that flash in your eyes. It's just a little bit of water, a little bit of fluid.
Oh, yeah, dude. Fuck, we cry on here every week. Sorry, dude.
That's beautiful.
Sorry. No, it's okay. But yeah, we don't have any shame about that.
No, you shouldn't. But I'm saying liquid leaving your body in a public place, as long as it's through your eyes, is not a problem.
That's what I'm talking about, huh? Yeah. Don't ask.
That's right.
Man, Tony is such an expert. He uses levity to make a connection with Theo in a place of vulnerability and validates him so that he is now laughing right after tearing up. One thing us therapists need to be very careful of is diving in too deep, too fast. I feel like Tony sensed that it was headed that way and he made a joke to bring the mood back up. It can be jarring for our client, so knowing when to dive deeper and knowing when to back off and knowing when to tell a joke is part of the art of therapy, and Tony here does it impressively. He even asked the old therapist question, how does it make you feel? Nice job. But for Theo, I feel so bad for this guy. He is so successful. Think about what he had to have done to get to this point in his career. He's done absolutely amazing. He must have worked his tail off. He should absolutely be proud of himself. This has everything to do with childhood, and therapy would look like going through his primary relationships and experiences to uncover what happened to him that would produce this kind of reaction. This really demonstrates how you have no idea what people are going through. The most successful person in the field can feel like a failure. The most popular guy can feel alone, and the most confident looking guy can be riddled with anxiety. You really have to get to know the people that you care about. Let's continue.
But my point is, there's a real anchor for you there. So let me explain it to you. Everybody has what I call an emotional home.
Yeah.
Do you ever watch like a place here and let's say, where the cyclone happens every 2 or 3 years and it wipes out everything, or a tornado comes through?
Oh, yeah.
And you see these poor people, all their stuff's all over the ground and they're picking it up, and you could have a heart of stone not to feel. They rebuild. 2 years again, it happens again. 2 years later, it happens again. Some part of you eventually goes, why don't you move? It's like, why don't you move?
A lot of Vietnam's like that. It floods. New Orleans is like that. It floods.
New Orleans like that. So here's why don't they move? Because it's home. It's what they know. We have an emotional home. We have certain emotions that got built up in your youth. I had 4 fathers. I had a mother that was pretty intense. And I had a lot of emotions that came out of that experience. If I didn't reprogram myself, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today, because my emotional home was not good feelings. It's what I was used to. So even though it didn't feel good, you go there because it's what you know.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. So
yeah, it almost felt like I was deserting myself if I felt good about myself, which is crazy. I'd almost feel like I was leaving. I don't know. Yeah, it's almost like I know those feelings.
No, finish that thought. I'm leaving what?
Well, it's almost like I feel like I know those feelings of not feeling good about myself so well that I don't want to leave them alone, because we always had each other. And it was like, if I leave them, If
Have you ever had a
if I
friend?
leave them, I won't. I don't know. Does that make sense though?
Yeah, it does. You won't what?
If I leave them, I'll just be letting them down, and they're not even real, but they're some part of me inside of me I can't even access. They're like his brothers.
That's right. They're your home, brother.
Yeah.
Crying on your podcast?
You are one pathetic loser.
I'm kidding. It takes a lot of courage to cry on your podcast, knowing that millions of people are going to see it. I think it's pretty awesome, and I respect Theo a lot for being able to do that. The emotional home. Let's talk about that. I've never actually heard that analogy before, but everything that Tony is saying is correct. Human beings are so interesting because most of the time, they will choose something they know over something unfamiliar, even if what they know is extremely painful. They would willingly choose pain over change. And change is one of the most difficult things for people. And for Theo here, we're talking about facing some very difficult emotional events and doing a mind overhaul. Not an easy task. Let's see if Tony helps him get there.
And by the way, I really appreciate you being so vulnerable, because the people watching there, seeing that, allow them to be vulnerable, because you're a role model of that. It's because you're funny as shit, but to be able to be that vulnerable is beautiful. But let me just tell you something. Those are not your friends.
Yeah.
And you're not going to abandon those parts of yourself. You're going to find these other parts of yourself that need to be in charge. It's not to say that you can't have negative emotions or fears or feelings, but the ones that don't support you, you got to break that pattern. And the way you break the pattern first is you start to see, you get a new experience. If I get you an experience where you feel like you actually felt proud of yourself without those feelings, and there was no sense of loss, and I did that with you for days and days, you'll never go back.
Wow.
Because your brain will go, what the F? I'm not going back to that bullshit. Those weren't my friends. It'd be like, it's like having a friend that beats the shit out of you every single day. And it's like, I'm letting him down if I don't want to beat the shit out of me, right? It's like, oh no, I got to be there for him, because I got to be there so he can beat the shit out of me all the time, right? Yeah. That's pretty much what's happening.
That is crazy to hear, dude. You're like, damn, here we go again.
And so then what happens though is the reason you went for the antidepressants is it's so overwhelming that numbing at least feels a little less. I'd rather see you cry and feel the pain, even though I want you to feel pain as a brother.
Yeah, no, I'm grateful to feel it. I want it out of my system.
That's right.
Yeah.
But the next step for you is drawing a line in the sand of how you really want to feel. So I'll have people in an event write down, I give them like a minute. I go, draw a line down the middle, write down the left side, all the positive emotions you feel in an average week, not once a year, not once a month, the ones you regularly feel, whatever good feeling.
So I don't object to what Tony is saying here, but I do really object to the pace at which he is saying it. So he started out talking about parts, and parts is something that I love to use with clients. It's so powerful, but it's a very huge concept, and he just kind of tosses it out there. And then he immediately goes on, mentions reprogramming, to numbing, to jumping right into an actual practical exercise, all within a minute and a half. Look at all of this. My head is spinning, and I deal with these concepts every day. I'm guessing Theo didn't retain any of it. So if we're talking about the pace that I would use in therapy, I would introduce 1 to 2 major concepts per 1 hour session. 3 would be the absolute max. And I understand that this is a podcast and not a therapy session, but I still would want Tony to slow down a little bit and really help Theo understand these very vital concepts and have him explore how they would apply to him. But let's see if this tool goes anywhere.
The average emotions in a positive week.
Awesome. So what are some ones you feel in a week?
In a week, I feel
at least once a week.
Okay, any emotion?
Positive. Start with the positive.
Positive.
Empowering emotions.
Hopeful.
Okay.
Thankful.
Yeah.
Loving.
Yeah.
And maybe some pride.
Good. And so the pride is sneaking in. Now that's not ego pride. That's pride of like you're growing.
Well, I'm learning about pride. I mean, it's like I said, it's really hard for me to feel proud of myself.
Yes.
You know.
So stop saying that.
Okay.
Because every time you say that, you're rewiring it back into your body over and over. It's a story. Yeah. It's like there's an old phrase that says, "Tell a lie big enough, loud enough, and long enough. Sooner or later, people believe it." You know who said that? Hitler.
Oh, I think you were going to say Fauci.
Well, same difference.
But yeah, I didn't know it was going to be.
We're aligned on that one, brother.
You're a quicker thinker than I am. But we hear what we're saying.
But
yeah.
The conversation you've said with yourself, you've done. How many times do you think you've said that?
Said what?
That it's hard for me. I
say it a lot. Yeah, it's because I think I'm. It's like having a new story for myself. You know, part of me is still, there's a heavy bit even to my whole new story, to having a new story, even having some success in my life. It's almost like some of it feels embarrassing, you know?
And some people feel like, you know, the word people use is imposter syndrome. It's all bullshit. It's just fear that you're not enough. We all have that fear, brother.
Yeah.
You know, I feel that at times. I don't feel it much now, but I'm 63 years old and I've done a shitload of things for 40 years, you know.
You built enough pattern.
Yeah, I built up new patterns.
Yeah.
It's like a muscle. You know, everybody's got the muscle. If you use it, it grows. If you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't ever disappear though. It just looks like it's not there. But if you demand it, you push it beyond what it's comfortable with. And that's what you're doing right now. You're pushing beyond your comfort. You were settling for comfort to try to survive. Now you're like, F that. I want more out of this life. You know, I'm not going to settle for that shit. But then you keep telling yourself the old story. So change your story, change your life. It sounds overly simplistic, but it is true.
Once again, the pace feels off. So we went from the T-graph of emotions to identifying and discouraging a negative self-perception, to understanding the negative feedback loop, to talking about very powerful fears and patterns, and then the muscle analogy, and then to changing the story. The story and understanding the story of our life is such a powerful concept. It is narrative therapy. And if you've been a fan of the channel, you know that I love narrative therapy. I use it a lot and it is super effective. But Tony, once again, just tosses it out there and it loses a lot of its impact. It gets lost amongst all the other noise. Once again, as a therapist, I would really slow it down and have Theo lead more. If you notice, Tony is doing the lion's share of the talking. In sessions, I've developed this inner clock that starts and it goes off when I feel like I've talked too much, because I need to give my client the time to really fill the space. But there was a moment, I don't know if you guys saw it, a moment where Theo alludes to his story and Tony just automatically jumps in and tells him about it's him not being enough. In that moment, instead of telling Theo what it was, I would love if Tony would be a little more patient to let Theo tell the story. Tony has all the knowledge in the world, but sometimes things don't register with people unless they come to that realization by themselves. This was something I had to learn as a young therapist. I had all the answers. I would sit with my clients and I would tell them exactly what was going on. In fact, I would actually do that with my friends. I would just tell them everything, but a lot of times it just didn't work. People have to come to conclusions on their own, and that's why therapists are taught to meet the clients where they're at and have them lead. And that's why I would have Theo tell his story, because sometimes the easiest way to change your thinking is actually verbalizing what's going on and seeing how absurd it is.
But all those emotions are old habits. They're just habits. Yeah. So I understand that. And by the way, when you feel embarrassed or you feel these negative emotions, it also makes you feel for yourself for a little bit. So that's the other part you might be afraid of. Like some people take care of everybody. What do you mean by that? Well, like for some, I don't know if this is you, but some people are so busy trying to make everybody else happy all the time. They don't take care of themselves unless it's a big ass problem. And then for the first time, even if it's a negative feeling, at least I'm feeling for myself. I'm feeling for me. And that might be what you're afraid of losing. But let's try it for a second here. What if I told you you could go back and feel like shit as much as you want and it'll never stop? Right. But you don't have to have it be the predominant emotion of your life. That this need to beat yourself up or be ashamed or not be too happy, that it's an old story that got wired a long time ago and has nothing to do with who you really are. But when you keep telling yourself, it's like my friend, I need to take care of him, I'm gonna lose a part of myself. No, you'll never lose that part. There's a part of me that would be a victim very easily. I was beat as a child. My mom was a beautiful woman. I'm not denigrating her. God, but when she put alcohol together with prescription drugs, she was crazy. And I was 5'1" in high school, believe it or not. I'm 6'7" now. I tell people the difference. I tell people the difference is personal growth, right? but I had a tumor in my brain that made me grow. But I was this little guy, and she would slam my head against it. She'd put liquid soap down my throat because she said I was lying, and I wasn't lying. And when the person you love most is trying to hurt you, you can do a number on your head. But I look back now, and fortunately, I didn't let that stop me. Mm-hmm. And I didn't settle for that. I struggled for a long time. I look back on it and I can honestly tell you, if she was the mother I'd hoped she'd been, like if I was well-fed, do you really think I'd be trying to feed a billion? I've done 1 billion people, now I'm trying to feed 100 billion people. You think I would be spending my time doing that if I was a well-fed kid? I don't think so. No. If she had been the mother I want, I wouldn't have become the man I'm proud to be. Yeah. So those emotions are not you. They were a part of your past. They were a pattern. It's a pattern of what you do with your body and breathe. But it meets some of your needs to feel yourself or feel sorry for yourself or feel sad.
Right.
Man, again, Theo can't even get a word in. And also, once again, everything Tony is saying is spot on, but he is mostly telling Theo how it is and not letting Theo have room to process his own thoughts and emotions. But hey, wait a second, did Tony just hijack the focus off of Theo and onto himself? Here he's telling stories about his mom, his tumor that made him grow, feeding billions of people. And I really feel like Tony made it a little more about him than it was about helping Theo. I totally know and understand that self-disclosure is a very important thing to do. But for me, this whole thing started off strong. In my opinion, the moment passed, and I think it was largely due to Tony being impatient. So if I were to give Tony a grade, I would give him an A for content, but for actually helping Theo, I would actually say it's closer to a D. I don't think it was that impactful. Sorry, Tony. As a motivational speaker, he is the best, but as a therapist, he has a lot to learn. Well, those are my thoughts. What are yours? I would love to hear them in the comment section. Was Tony too impatient, or was I being a little too hard on banana hands? Thanks for watching, guys. Love you. Peace out.